Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the first of our 2024 webinars organized by the Development Studies Association's Land, Politics and Sustainability Study Group. Last year, our last webinar was with Professor Kojo Amano, who really had a magistral presentation on land and commodification in Africa. So today, our speaker is Dr. Johannes Bhanye. We are really, really pleased for him to have agreed to deliver this webinar. Thanks so much, Johannes. We know that it's the start of term. You must be extremely busy, but thanks so much for making the time for this webinar. So I'll just start by introducing our speaker. Dr. Johannes Itai Bhanye is an Andrew Mellon Foundation researcher and academic with a PhD in migration and land settlement. He is currently a Post-Doctoral Research Fellow with the University of the Free State, South Africa, and he is with the Department of Urban and Regional Planning, where he teaches two master's modules. First, research methods for urban planners, and dissertation proposal for urban planners. He also holds a B.Sc degree in rural and urban planning and an M.Sc in social ecology, both from the University of Zimbabwe. His research interest cut across land and peri-urbanity, migration, urban informality, cities, and social change, among other development-related topics in Africa. His research expertise lies in using ethnographic research approaches in understanding the complex dynamics related to migration, cities, and social change. Dr. Bhanye has practically conducted research projects in Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Lesotho, focusing mostly on understanding the living experiences of people living on the margins in African cities. He has published extensively in high-impact journals such as Urban Forum, Land Use Policy, Anthropology Southern Africa, Pan-African Conversation, Journal of Asian and African Studies, Town and Urban Planning, African Identities, and International Journal of Sustainable Development and World Ecology. His recent book publication, COVID-19 Lockdowns and the Urban Poor in Harare, Zimbabwe, Emerging Perspectives and the Morphing of a Sustainable Urban Future, has been published by Springer Cham and is available online. I will be sharing the link soon. Dr. Bhanye has been invited as a speaker at several international conferences and seminars in countries like Senegal. He was there recently in December, in Zambia, China, Germany, South Africa, Lesotho, Morocco, Belgium, Ghana, and recently in Switzerland, where he was awarded the Best Paper Award with prize money during the NCCR on the MOVE Graduate Conference on Migration and Mobility Studies for the paper titled Nimble Sociality and Belonging, an ethnography of migrant responses to bans on associational life during the COVID-19 pandemic, which has now been published with Urban Forum. So thank you so much, Johannes. We are really delighted. This is a very brilliant academic trajectory, and we wish you really all the best. So you have 40 minutes, and we will have the question and responses just after your presentation. So over to you now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Rama. For such an introduction. I hope you are hearing me, colleagues, right?
We can hear you well. Let me ask if the others in the room can hear you. Can everyone hear Johannes perfectly? Yes. Okay. Right. So please go ahead.
All right. I would also like to acknowledge the colleagues we have joined us today. Thank you so much for being part of this webinar series. I will go right away to share with you my work. It's part of my PhD research, which I finished in 2021. So it's an ethnographic work that I did among Malawian migrants in Zimbabwe. Basically, I was looking at issues of access to land, but also not only access, but also security over land. I was looking at how do migrants on the margins access and secure the land they have access. So a lot of dynamics emerged during that ethnographic study. And some of the dynamics are related to inheritance dynamics, rental transactions, land purchase transactions, and this specific strategy that I'm going to present today, which is land seizure. So I've documented the other strategies in other publications. For today, I'm only going to focus on land seizure as a strategy used by migrants to access land. So regarding the access, I was looking at two things, which is access to land for settlement and also access to land for peri-urban farming. With this particular strategy that was being used by migrants, which is land seizures or self-allocation, it was specifically being used for access to land for peri-urban farming.
Johannes, please just don't forget to move your slides as you move into the topic, yeah? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So the title of the presentation is "This is God's Land Seizures as a Mechanism of Land Access for Peri-urban Farming among Malawian migrants in Zimbabwe." In Zimbabwe's peri-urban. I'm going to move straight away to the introduction. I'm trying to move. Is it transitioning to the introduction? Can you confirm?
You are still on the same page. Do you want me to share your presentation from my side?
Yeah, probably.
You just tell me when you need me to move it.
All right.
Yes, I just need to download it and then share it. Just 1 minute. Yeah, now we can see it was moving just now.
All right. Yeah.
It was. We could. Yeah. Now we can see it. Yes.
All right. Perfect.
Yes, it's
Right,
perfect.
so we can go ahead now. So by way of introduction, colleagues, urban or peri-urban agriculture, which is the growing of food in cities or the city territories, has become a vital component of sustainable urban development, playing a significant role in addressing food security challenges and fostering local economic development. As cities across the globe grapple with the need, to ensure resilient and equitable food systems, urban agriculture presents a promising solution to facilitate access to food among the urban population. However, access to land for urban or peri-urban farming across much of Africa remains a hurdle for marginalized populations, particularly those regarded as the other or migrants. Using ethnographic inquiry, this paper explores how dispersed Malawian migrants that are trained in this study, the Lydicians, as they say, an informal settlement called Lydician informal settlement in Zimbabwe. The study looks at how these migrants adopt a land seizures to acquire the much possessed land for peri-urban farming. The land is coveted because there are...
Hello, Johannes?
Yes.
Is it just me or we lost him?
Hello, are you still hearing
Yes,
me?
yes, we can hear you, yes. Sorry, please go ahead.
All right. Thanks very much, Doc. So in terms of the theoretical framing of the study, this study is situated in insurgent citizenship theory. Insurgent citizenship theory recognizes that marginalized groups, often excluded from formal citizenship rights and processes, employ unconventional practices and collective action to assert their rights and claim belonging within the society. And they do this challenging the established systems of governance, power, and authority. Insurgent citizenship typically emerges in response to perceived injustices, inequalities, or oppressive policies by governments towards marginalized communities. Insurgent citizens engage in unconventional, often disruptive forms of action to demand for change and address social, economic, or political issues. In the context of land access, insurgent citizenship can involve appropriating spaces and resources, often through unconventional or illegal means, like the land seizures that I'm going to present in this paper. I'm moving on to the area of study, which is immediate informal settlement. This study was carried out in Libya, a period of informal settlement located in the area of Northern Town in Zimbabwe. Libya was a valuable and unique site for this study because of various social and mobility processes that generated situated knowledge regarding land access dynamics among Malawian migrants. Libya's settlement arose because of long-term processes, some linked to colonial policies and practices. Just to give a background of how Lydicians end up being at Libya's informal settlements, Malawians migrated to southern Rhodesia as part of migrant labor pools under the infamous colonial labor migration, famously referred to as the Barrow or Umtanda system. Nyasaland, now Malawi, was a labor reservoir for Zimbabwe and South African colonial capitalist economies. Malawian migrants were laborers on colonial white-owned land, a practice that continued even after Zimbabwe's independence in 1980. Some of these migrants were settled on Libya, a former farm compound. As you can see on the screen there, in the middle is Libya's informal settlements. I think there are about 1,200 people staying in this informal settlement. And the settlement is surrounded by private plots, private agro-residential plots, and also farms that were allocated during Zimbabwe's first land reform program. Unfortunately, the Malawian migrants who were staying in this compound, they didn't manage to benefit through the process of Zimbabwe's first land reform program, which took place around 2002. The reason why these migrants did not benefit was firstly, their foreign ancestry, and secondly, they were regarded as being affiliated with the white colonial forces. So majority of them didn't manage to get land. And this is the reason why we are now seeing these migrants working insurgent citizenship as a way of them, trying to access land. I'm now moving on to the methodology of the paper. In terms of methodology of the paper, the fieldwork of this study was carried out during an extended doctoral ethnographic stay among Malawian migrants in Zimbabwe's northern peri-urban area, which lasted for about 1.5 to 2 years between the period of 2018 and 2020. Ethnography is a qualitative research method that involves immersive fieldwork and direct engagement with the subject under study. Researchers employing ethnography aim to understand and interpret culture, social interactions, and practices of a particular group or community by participating in their daily activities and observing their behaviors in the natural environment. As you can see on the screen there, that was me erecting my makeshift immediate community, and that was my base where I was doing the research for the period of 1.5 to 2 years, and this really helped me to actually get closer to the community and observe all these peri-urban land dynamics that were happening in this community. From the many migrants that I encountered in the community during fieldwork, I purposely selected approximately 50 for in-depth interviews. The selection targeted migrants about 18 years, and both men and women were also selected. And I also considered the different generations of migrants in the community, that is first generation, second generation, third and fourth generation migrants. These selected participants, they became the sources of information on the land access dynamics in immediate community. The conversations with the selected migrants focused on the sources of land for peri-urban agriculture, the locations of the places they farm, the challenges faced in holding onto the land, and the strategies used in holding onto the land. As I have mentioned earlier on, it is important to note that there were other plural strategies of accessing land among migrants in regions that are observed during the study, ranging from purchase transactions, land inheritance transactions, and rental transactions. However, in this paper, I will only focus on land seizures as a land access strategy among logicians. In addition to the in-depth interviews, I also did key informant interviews with indigenous community leaders, local councillors, civil society leaders, and the local heads in the community. Throughout the study, I also ensured that I observed all the necessary ethical considerations, especially considering that I was dealing with a vulnerable group of people, which is migrants. So I ensured their confidentiality was respected. I also ensured informal consent before I did the study. And throughout the study, I also ensured that there was a respect of the study participants as well. And all the names were also anonymized in the writing of the thesis and also the papers that I have been writing from this work. Now I'm moving on to the findings of this study. The major finding being the narrative of this is God's land as a justification used by Malawian migrants to self-allocate the land in the peri-urban. Unilateral land seizures by legation, or what is commonly referred to as adverse possession, or prescription, or self-allocation, is a key mode of access to land for peri-urban farming in Libya. Land seizures involve the act of clearing and utilizing physical space without the consent of the owner of the land and permission from any formal institution, as one legation narrated. We self-allocate ourselves land here. We just identify an unutilized piece of land and you go ahead and you do your farming. I'm now moving on to the justification of land seizures by Malawian migrants or by the musicians. While self-allocation of land seizures can be viewed as illegal, risk, and a transgression, musicians always find a reason for engaging in such acts. An interesting finding during the study was that most migrants in Libya believe that self-allocation of land for peri-urban farming does not require any interference from formal and informal institutions that govern land acquisition, because the land belongs to God, which is the title of my presentation. Musicians also believe that those who dispossess of others' productive land are inconsiderate and threatening to society. As one of the elderly men in the community called Zambia, who was farming on self-allocated land on the common alluded. This land belongs to God. No one should have a monopoly over land. We all came on this earth with nothing. Why should other people claim more ownership over earthly resources than others? Those who dispossess of others of their productive land are evil. I do not find any offense in allocating myself a piece of land to farm and feed my family. Besides, I am farming in the common land that has just been left idle for decades. Indeed, scholars like Bailey, for example, in 1983, confirmed that individuals and groups in competition for resources will use narratives to justify their claims to resources or to protect their interests. In Libya, the narrative "this is God's land" was so common as a justification for land self-allocation. Other musicians justified seizing land for peri-urban farming production as their only last hope for owning land. So there were some migrants who were doing it out of desperation, like this migrant who alluded. We do not have any other alternative to access land for peri-urban farming. That was Miss Gapai narrating. During the Zimbabwe's first land reform program, where land was allocated to indigenous Zimbabweans from the white colonialists, the musicians also registered for land. Still, the state officials were not coming about parceling out land to them because of their Malawian foreign origin and long association with the white colonial regime. In the end, then, land seizures become the measure of last resort among distributions. Now I'm moving on to the different types of land that Lydicians self-allocate immediate peri-urban. The land that people immediate self-allocate is on the periphery of the compound. Some of this land includes what informants immediate called Kumawa veterans, meaning disused war veteran farms. These are farms that were allocated to war veterans, those who fought during the war in Zimbabwe before independence, before 1980. So they are just lying dormant, they are not being used, and these are Lydicians, they then just go and self-allocate themselves this land. The land they also self-allocate includes the commons and roads and railway buffers. It also includes, and this was quite interesting, existing private plots that are located in proximity to the settlement. There are middle income and high income Zimbabweans who are buying agro-residential plots in that area. And these Lydicians, they can go and identify land from those private plots that is not being utilized, and they go and self-allocate themselves. One of the most interesting stories of the field work in regards to this relates to an interviewed squatter who earmarked for use a portion of my doctoral supervisor's retirement home. My doctoral supervisor also bought a piece of land there. So it was quite interesting for me realizing that one of the Lydicians had actually self-allocated a portion of land from his retirement space. In the context of insurgent citizenship, the diverse types of land self-allocated by Lydicians in Zimbabwe's peri-urban area illuminate the complex nature of their struggle for access to resources and recognition. Colleagues, I'm now moving on to strategies to secure the seized land among Lydicians. As I have mentioned earlier on, that it is not enough for migrants or for people on the margins to just acquire land or to just access land. It is equally important, if not more important, for them to have some means to secure that piece of land. It is not enough, like I've mentioned, to just access or seize land. Migrants must find ways to guard or secure the land from expropriation or dispossession from fellow migrants and the indigenous Zimbabweans who are surrounding the compound. Thus, migrants immediately employ a range of strategies. These strategies are illustrated on that diagram on the screen. And these include: one, the consistent of use of a piece of land; two, simultaneously claiming multiple plots; three, endorsement of land ownership by family, friends, and fictive kin; and finally, and this is rather strange, invoking the Nyau culture or witchcraft as a way of securing the land. On the left side of the screen there, we can see one the member of the Nyau Scout wearing his costume. I will go into much detail later on about this Nyau Scout. I'm now speaking about the consistent of use of a piece of land as a way of protecting the seized land by Malawian migrants. Certain conditions should be met for land seizures to be effective. Immediate settlement, the protracted length of time of stay in the community gave the migrants the knowledge about which land was vacant for petty farming production in the community. 43-year-old Richard Tembo, for example, who settled in Niger in 2001, used his length of stay to build a knowledge of which parts of the periphery of the compound belonged to nobody. Richard Tembo had this to say, we have to self-allocate land that indigenous plot owners underutilize. Without that, our families will die. But you cannot just target a place. You must know it belongs to no one. As for me, I identified about 1 acre of land on those plots that I then cleared with my family for farming. I'm now moving on to the second strategy that is used by musicians to secure land, which is simultaneously claiming multiple plots of land. Even after consistently using a piece of land, the uncertainty regarding ownership or use of particular land is an important matter in the settlement of litigation. People try to deal with these risks associated with this in many ways. Some, like Mr. Tembo, for example, had claims to multiple plots. Mr. Tembo narrated, we utilize idle land that belongs to indigenous A2 plot owners. I also own multiple portions of land in the rural area. I often keep a portfolio of portions of land in my name because we do not have a deed of tenure over the land. So, if I lose one portion of land, I will still have somewhere to do farming. There were several other cases from the study where migrants identified land in various places to reduce the risk of being landless. Mr. Mwale has 2 plots, one in the nearby war veteran farm and another one by the railway line. Similarly, Miriam Munemo has a small plot in the railway line area and 2 other portions of land adjacent to the community. Now I move on to the third strategy that is used by logicians, which is endorsement of land ownership by family, friends, and city kin. Other migrants invite city kin who play an essential role in conflict or dispute resolution with rivals over a piece of land. As scholars, for example, Raimundo and Raimundo 2012 observed, friends and neighbors play and may act as arbitrators during land disagreements. Immediately, migrants could invite friends and neighbors to assist in dispute resolution over the seized land. This was clear in the case of witness Banda, for example, who quarreled over a piece of seized land with another migrant who was also claiming the land. The two parties called neighbors who assisted in clearing the dispute by supporting that witness Banda was the rightful owner of the land, as evidenced by the history of use of the land. Weirdly, other migrants invoked the occult and witchcraft to protect their land against threatening indigenous and fellow migrants. Now I'm moving on to how do migrants invoke witchcraft and the occult as a way of protecting their land. Immediately, the now cults play a significant role in advancing access to and security over land. Now also known as Bule Wankulu, is a secret cult as a ritual dance practiced among Sewa people dating back to the great Sewa Empire of the 17th century. Through the cult, musicians intimidate the indigenous into releasing part of their land for farming. The fear is usually targeted towards caretakers or managers of agro-residential plots and farms surrounding the compound. Usually, the Nyao cult members choose public places to perform their almost supernatural dances and hounding high-tempo drum rhythms. Occasionally, they move around from the cemetery, making ghostly noises and usually ending up close to the areas that indigenous Zimbabweans occupy. Launching their processions from the graveyard is meant to preserve the mystery surrounding the Nyao practice and scaring away non-Sewa people who might be tempted to intrude. When these dances are performed at night, these processions scare the caretakers and owners of the nearby farms. Because of these practices, the indigenous people are constantly reminded of the power of the Nyao cult. When the cult members seize land that belongs to indigenous Zimbabweans, they will not be questioned because of the fear instilled in the indigenous. While the Nyao cult is used to secure land against external threats, the indigenous, which is the indigenous Zimbabweans, witchcraft in the compound is often used to protect an individual's land against fellow migrants in the compound. In contemporary African studies, the term witchcraft can be used to cover various activities of nefarious sorts like black magic, mystical arts, spells, and enchantment. This is according to scholars like B.Sc, for example, Blackman, and more. During this ethnographic study in village community, rumors of witchcraft were common, especially concerning resource security. Owing to this fear of danger, people in the community do not encroach onto land that is not theirs, as they are unknown fatal consequences associated with such actions. During this ethnographic study, some community members openly talked about people who could hurt them, who could hurt others with witchcraft if they took their land, especially among the younger generations of migrants in Libya. There are fears that older first generation Malawians in the community can cast spells of misfortune and in extreme cases send members of the community into Zambia if they were ever encroached onto the spaces that these elders have seized. Colleagues, that was my work. I'm now concluding the work. Seizures in conclusion, among musicians, serves as a poignant example of insurgent citizenship in action. The action rooted in a belief in divine entitlement to land and driven by the need for survival and dignity, challenge established norms and institutions of resource allocation. The conviction that the land belongs to God serves as a powerful legitimizing force for land self-allocation. These unconventional methods reflect that left with no other conventional options, people on the margins can employ diverse and culturally embedded means to assert their presence and maintain control over vital resources like land. The persistence of Libyan or Malawian migrants in Zimbabwe peri-urban in asserting their right to land despite facing adversity demonstrates the resilience and determination that also characterize other insurgent citizenship movements worldwide. Finally, and in terms of policy, the state should have policies that make it possible, particularly for long-term migrants like the musicians, to have access to resources and entitlements that enable them to formally survive where they are located. Thank you so much, colleagues. That was my work. Looking forward to your comments and so that I might improve the work. I'm yet to publish it, so your comments will really be very important for me to improve the work. Once again, Chair, thank you so much for giving me the time and this opportunity. I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Johannes, for this brilliant presentation. I think both the questions that you've asked, the empirical findings are rich and promising. So without further ado, I'll open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will compile them for Johannes. If there's nobody, I'll start, if you allow me. I just wanted to ask, when you say this is God's land, we have the same expression in Senegal, but we don't say this is God's land, we say this is the king's land. I think it dates from the period where Senegal was still a feudal society. But this is a way to for people not to take the responsibility of taking care of the land. So they will say, this is the king's land. It means it belongs to everyone because we are the king collectively, or we are, you know, the sovereign. So I wanted to ask, where does the state, where is the state in all of this? And how those contested meaning, because when you talk about insurgent citizenship, there is a power facing those citizens. How do they counter, or how do they respond to those insurgent citizenship? And what are the implications for land governance in general, that people are just able to come and seize the land and use them for their own purposes? Isn't that met by repression? Yeah, I just want to know how the state, what are the different reactions of the state, especially because we are talking about migrants. So I don't know what the rights of migrants are in Lydiate and in these cities, but if they have rights, how is it enforced or countered by the state, the Zimbabwean state? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for such a thought-provoking question.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give this background of these migrants, as I highlighted earlier on, the community is now more of a diaspora community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more like an ethnic enclave. They sort of secluded themselves, staying in that sort of marooned informal settlement.
Mm-hmm.
And as I have highlighted, these migrants have a long history of migration that dates back from the 1890s, when the colonial labor migration started. Mm-hmm. I've also had quite a lot of questions when I present this work, when people say, are they really migrants or exactly? Again, there are some scholars like Ranger, for example, who said, these people, they didn't cross the borders. They actually crossed, by the borders. Mm-hmm. Because by the time they moved to Zimbabwe, some of them, especially the first generation, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Zambia were just one federation. Mm-hmm. So there was no migration sort of, because it was just one country. Mm-hmm. So some people say, no, these people, they are not migrants. They just crossed by the borders, because the borders later came in, and they were already in Zimbabwe. They were already working on the farms. And mm-hmm. Unfortunately, after independence, that's when Zimbabwe implemented the first land reform program, which was really criticized for the way in which it was implemented. It also had its own benefits because, Zimbabweans, they got to own land, but it was also criticized in terms of the way it was implemented. Some say it was haphazard, there was violence, issues. So after the first land reform program, that's when these migrants, most of them lost their jobs on the white farmers where they used to work. So now they were forced to look for livelihoods for them to survive. That's when they are now sort of engaged in this peri-urban farming. They are now moving on to Swiss land and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Now coming back to your question of what is the implications in terms of governance, how are they viewed by the government? Are they met with sort of repression issues? The response for this is broadly speaking, these migrants, they are very much strategic. Like I said, today I only presented land seizures as a way of access to land. Mm-hmm. But throughout the study, there were also other ways in which these migrants secure land. And one of the interesting was political patronage. So
political
patronage or political.
Oh, patronage. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So one of the narratives that came from the community during the study was this community is a political empire. Because recently, these people, they are now also able to vote. So they provide votes for the ruling party. So
I can't hear you anymore. I'm not sure if, yeah, now I can hear you.
All right. So I was saying, these migrants, they also use political patronage as a way of protecting their space. So it's both protecting their informal settlement and also the land they get for farming. Exactly. So in terms of their general security, there are politicians who are heavily connected to the settlement and who say we are going to protect you to stay in this community. So they are politically protected.
Okay.
That is one thing. And also, secondly, their land seizures, like I mentioned, if they seize land that belongs to someone, when that someone comes, most of the time they will leave that land and move to another piece of land. Like I was mentioning, that they own multiple pieces of land strategically. So when the owner comes, they will move on to another piece of land. When the owner comes, they will move on to another piece of land. But there are some other indigenous Zimbabweans who will just leave them without questioning them. Like I was saying, these people, they are known for practicing the Nyau cows, which is much feared because they can cause some danger or even death or what. There are a lot of mysteries surrounding these Nyau cows and all. So sometimes they are just left to, continue using that piece of land. So, the whole dynamics, there's sort of some nimbleness in terms of how they do all these things. And there's also a whole lot of chain of strategies. If this strategy fails, they use this strategy. If this strategy fails, they use this strategy. But the most strong one is the political patronage in the community, because they are youth leaders, they are, there's the councillor there for Zambia of issues. So they are very heavily connected.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much for your very exhaustive response, Johannes. Mokua, Isabel, do you have any questions for Johannes? Yeah, we see Mokua. Please go ahead.
I really do not have a question per se, but I would relate what he has said to the Kenyan situation. Essentially, or how how we conceptualize land is much as it is not much as it is individual land. It is more of conceptualized in terms of the king or the chief or whoever holds power within a given community. So I relate so much of what he has said to our Kenyan situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mokua. Yeah, indeed, the way in which people relate to land in the African context is more or less the same, especially the value that as Africans put on land, and also the extent to which landless people try to find some ways to have at least their own space which they can call theirs, because land is such economic, spiritual, and social significance, especially among the Africans. Thank you so much for relating my study with the Kenyan context.
Isabel, do you have any question? I'm not sure if Isabel can hear me. But I wanted to ask, what challenges did you face? Because I can imagine it's not very easy to approach migrants, Malawian migrants, because of what you said. There is the issue of informality. They know that their situation is not really legal, if I may use this term in brackets. So how did you manage to get access and to build trust, to build the rapport for you to conduct your research?
Thank you so much, Rama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's quite a very important question. In such kind of a study, which was, ethnographic, and trying to penetrate a community that is close, like I mentioned earlier on, that this community is more of an ethnic enclave.
Mm-hmm.
And in my writing, I also wrote about the architecture of invisibility, of how this community is sort of surrounded by a safe barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't even want outsiders to get inside. They more or less like want themselves to be invisible to the to the outside community. So yeah, initially getting into the community, it wasn't easy. My point of entry was to approach the community leadership because initially for this study, I just wanted to do, some in-depth interviews, informed interviews, and then collect data like that. But my first visit to the community, we concluded with my supervisor that it was best for us to actually do an ethnographic study and move to that community. So initially, I had to go to the counselor who is above the community. And the counselor then told me that I know it's okay, you can proceed with your study. I showed him all my university documents, ethical approval, and also explained to him my study. But again, he also told me that, the issue you want to touch on of land is very sensitive. You just have to be very careful. And from the counselor then referred me to the community leaders. They are leaders who are at the local level within the community. There are three male leaders and two female leaders. So I had to approach all of them one after the other. And unfortunately, they were not available, all of them at the same day. So the whole process took me like a whole week trying to, meet with the community leaders. And then within the community, there was the one called the chairman. So he was the one who then introduced me to the whole community. And then they say, we have a PhD student coming from the University of Zimbabwe. He's going to be staying with us and he's going to do his observations. Please, you should welcome him. He's also going to interview you. And to kickstart the study, I was also helped by two youth who were sort of my research participants. And I also reflected on the importance of, local research participants as brokers in knowledge production. I presented the paper there was a conference in Zambia, reflecting how those, local research participants really assisted me in the production of knowledge. So like those two young guys would work with me in the community and introduce me. But it was just during the first days. After some time, the whole community was now familiar with me. I would walk alone. I would go and interview them alone. I would interact with them. And some of the interviews were more of, task-based interviews. That is, I was interviewing the people as I was also participating in some of the activities which they were doing. So yeah, I ended up being more of, part of the community, So yeah. But generally, it wasn't easy. I always had to, practice reflexivity, always, check my positionality. Because, with these kinds of communities today, you might be okay with each other, but the next day, I'll give an example where, during the elections in Zimbabwe, the presidential elections and the parliamentary elections, there were some people who were in the community who were saying, we think this guy is campaigning for someone else. So yeah, I was warned and I had to leave the field. And the following day I was told, some of the guys who were accused were thoroughly beaten. So I was, if I had not vacated, I was in serious danger. Then I had to come back later on. So yeah, those were some of the interesting dynamics.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share this. I see Isabel has left a question for you. She's apologizing for not turning her mic and camera on because she's recovering from a dental surgery. So she's asking, first of all, thanks to you, Johannes, for this wonderful presentation. I would like to hear more about the longer-term effects of land occupations. Have migrants been able to secure more formal rights over these plots of land as time passes by? Or have they claimed any rights to housing and land before the state based on the migrant status? Thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for such a comprehensive and very important question on the implications, long-term effects of these land occupations. Land occupations, definitely they have negative impacts in terms of urban development, because urban development it happens within the framework of already established plans or master plans, for example. And these land occupations, they will go against the established, master plans or local plans of those areas. So the long-term effect generally is, for example, haphazard development in the area, and also problems, for example, to the environment. Probably some of it's occupations for land settlement, for example. These people might be settling, like I was saying, these people were occupying buffers, that road buffers and railway buffers. And some of them might even be occupying probably wetlands affecting the environment. So really these land occupations have very negative long-term impact. And that is why in my policy recommendations, I said, our government should ensure that these people are formally given, resources are allocated, in a proper manner. Also ensuring that the utilization of those spaces of land are happening within the confines of the plans, the long-term plans of the regions or the areas or urban development. In terms of these migrants being able to secure more formal rights over land, these migrants haven't been able to secure formal rights of the land. I'm speaking specifically about Yeah, I'm speaking specifically about the specific case study that I was focusing on, which is Libya. So this migrant has been able to secure that that land for a number of reasons. One, their citizenship status, these people, is still, very questionable. And the other challenge is there hasn't really been, government policy to really assist, these migrants. But what is interesting about the Malawian migrants in Zimbabwe in general is that not all the Malawian migrants or Malawian descendants are living on the margins of Zimbabwe. Some Malawian diaspora in Zimbabwe, they managed to actually change a very better or even affluent niche with famous Malawian descendants. Some they've become musicians, some have become famous footballers. And they've managed to properly, occupy the formal spaces of formal spaces and even affluent spaces of Zimbabwe. However, it's only, these migrants who have been marooned and who have been captured in these, broader land issues. We used to work on the farms, we used to work on the mines. These ones, most of them have remained in the margins of Zimbabwe's social, economic, and political sphere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johannes. I think I can ask our participants to join me in congratulating you for this brilliant presentation. I personally have learned a lot, and I'm sure our participants as well. Just to remind you that this conversation is recorded, and we will be making sure to share it so that a maximum of people, most of whom registered but were not able to join, will be able to access it, and will also be able to contact you should they wish to have further interaction with you. So thank you so much and congratulations. This was really insightful. And I just want to seize this opportunity to share that the next conference will be with Dr. Elena Perez Nino, and she'll be talking on land, labor, and capital in Africa, merchant capital, more specifically. So what I wanted to do is just share a link, because I know we have a few more days to go for the Journal of Peasant Studies call. The CASAS collective of scholar activists from the Global South, the JPS and other partners are having this call for the next Write Shop, which will be taking place this summer. So I'm just trying to find the link. Isabel, if you have it, please feel free to share it in the chat box. So the next, I have it here. No, it's not the right one. If you are interested, just feel free to apply, and it will take place in the summer in China. So I have the link here. I'll just copy and paste it. So the deadline, let me just double check so I don't make any mistake. So it will take place from 1st to 2nd of August, and the deadline for application is on Monday. Thank you so much, Isabel. I'm just seeing that you shared it. The deadline is Monday, 15th of January, and the results will be announced in mid-February. And at the same time, I just wanted to invite those of you who are planning to attend the next Development Studies Association conference to bring to your attention that the Land Study Group has a panel, and the panel is co-organized with the University of Bath and myself. And you feel free to submit a proposal if interested. So I'm just trying to find the link so I can share it here. I already shared it in some of the groups that we share in common. And yeah, the deadline, I think, is the 23rd of January. So do feel free if you want to present. The panel will be on rural labor and agrarian politics, but we do welcome, we are not exclusive, we do welcome people working on peri-urban land issues. So if you have anything you want to present, Johannes, on rural, because I think all your presentation, what it made clear is that land is really specifically, land issues are tied with labor issues as they are seizing the lands to work on it. So if there is anything following up from the research you just presented that you would like to present, you are more than welcome to submit a proposal. So thank you so much to all of you. Next seminar will be on the 24th with Dr. Elena Perez Nino, and I will be sharing more information next week. Thank you so much, Johannes. As soon as the recording is uploaded, I will share it with you and with participants. Do you want to conclude? We'll leave you 1 minute if there is anything you want to say. Wrap up.
Well, really nothing, Doctor, except to just thank you for affording me this opportunity to be part of this series and share my work. And I really appreciate the engagement of the colleagues here. Yeah, I've also learned quite a lot, and definitely it's really going to help me to improve the work that I'm currently working on migrants on the margins. And I'm looking forward to continuous engagement even beyond this seminar series. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
all.
Thank you so much. So I'll just copy and paste the link to all the webinars for Mokwa, in case you missed it. So Mokwa, the link is here for the webinar, and the link for the DSA panel. The DSA panel, I also pasted it in the chat box if that is of interest. So thank you so much again.
Thank you everybody.